session, we come across what is AWS code commit, what is AWS code build, how it is going to work, and how we can achieve it. And we saw some optimization things, right? So we did just in previous video, that is we come across how we can build our application, how we can test our application and manage our application, all those things, right? So instead of going and hitting each time start build and all, so why don't we make it automation so that we can just sit and monitor the process. So if we encounter any errors, we can just look into that on that case on watching the logs, or else we can work on the other work also, right? So for that we shall go and make the automation. So to do automation, we required some bridge to be connected, so within build as well as deploy, right? That is from commit build, we required some pipelines to be managed for the auto building process. For that purpose, we will be using the AWS code pipeline. Okay, so this is the object over this session, and we'll go and try to understand what is AWS code pipeline, how it is going to helpful, and how we can use the code pipeline and all. Okay, so this will be the agenda of this session. So we'll try to understand the main object of this session and some key features, why should we use, and how it is going to work. We'll come across some example along with that the similar tool of pipeline. Okay, so let us start. So what exactly the AWS code pipeline is all? So AWS code pipeline is also fully managed continuous integration as well as continuous delivery service that automates the steps required to release software changes. So some XYZ developers have committed their code, and the DevOps engineer needs to go there and hit start build. The process will run, and then it is going to deploy where we have designated it, and from there we can able to access the different. If DevOps engineer forgets to provide the start build button, so in those cases the application will retain as it is, and it won't get any updates or the things. Fine. For that, to optimize those flaws, so we come across the solution called AWS code pipeline within the ecosystem of AWS. So where it will going to help us in automating the steps required to release the software changes. So if new feature got added to my software, so automatically the software will go and run that command whatever we have provided in the build specification, and it will going to store the resulted packaged software, and from there we can able to access, or we can able to deploy wherever we want. If you want to deploy it in the Kubernetes, we can wherever we want. So fine. So it enables developer to modulate and automate and visualize their release process as pipeline consistency of stage, such as source, build, test, and deploy. Fine. So the code pipeline integrates seamless with other AWS services and the third-party tools. So code pipeline integrates seamless with other AWS services and also with the third-party tools. So we need to have additional libraries to use the code pipeline. So helping teams to deliver code faster with high quality and reduce risk. How we can achieve high quality? So whenever they committed some code for the main branch, so automatically we can run that, that is automatically the build process will take place, and we saw, right, since we have not created the S3 bucket to store our resultant data, so it's throw me an error. So immediately we can look into that error, we can resolve it as soon as possible. So by doing all those things, we can maintain a high quality of the product and reduce risk. So how we can avoid the risk means if there is any issues or the glitches or the logs. So though having the logs, I got deployed with the latest version, so people are all facing the same issues. So that might leads to switch to any other application, since we have many logs in our application, right? So when we does the automation things and the error got encountered, and immediately we look into the logs and we resolve it, right? So even on that case we can reduce the risk of the application. So why we use the code pipeline? So automate the software releases or the updates things, and we can manage everything in one session. So to do or to achieve those things, we use AWS code pipeline. Fine. And here are some few features of code pipeline. So we can do automation things, right? So automatically triggers the action. So how build, test, deployment whenever code changes are detected. So in Git or the code commit, if any users or the developer commit something, so automatically the webhook got triggered. How? So we have some changes in our code. So kindly look into that and run that application to make the changes. Like that, it will automatically throw and triggers and the actions, that is the build going to happen. So integration. So work with AWS services like code build, code deploy, and third party tools like Jenkins, GitHub, Bitbucket. So we can include pipeline here as well. So customizable workflow, flexible pipeline stages that can be trialed to fit specific release process. So we can also manage, so we can also distribute the weights things and all. We'll go and see that. So visual workflow. Okay, so provide a clear graphical representation of the pipeline. So how it is working from now, where it is staging, and whether the that stage got processed and moving further and all. High availability. So built on AWS reliable infrastructure. So here we don't require to manage all the infrastructure. So since it's fully managed by the AWS, everything is being taken care by the AWS itself. Okay. So next is security, as we have already discussed in previous two videos that we can integrate the IAM and we can provide the rules. So even we saw while creating the build, right? So there we provided the permission. So without providing the permission, we could not able to store the resultant in our S3 bucket, and we cannot able to access our the data whatever we have in our S3 bucket too, right? And why should we go? And fast and reliable. So obviously why we are giving or why we are using the tools or the features called pipeline, so it's more fast and visual as well as reliable software delivery, right? So automates the release process. So here I don't want to go and interfere in the pipeline, like need not to go and hit the build button and need to maintain all those things. So automatically the release process completely been taken since based on the provided data previously while setting up the things. So reduce manual intervention. So no need to go and pay attention for doing all those things, and detects issues early in the pipeline by running the build and test automatically. So once the build is successful, automatically the test as parallel happened, right? That is how the thing. And scalability. So handles large and complex pipelines for enterprise scales application. So it's not only limited to small one, we can handle complexity also. So seamless AWS integration. So directly integrate with AWS services for building, testing, deploying the application. So we can also integrate the pipeline which can be associated within the AWS services too. And here also we will be paying the amount only for the duration we use it. So improve collaboration. So provide the single interface for team member to track and manage. So how we can have the single interfaces? So we can able to make out the build section and the that is testing, from there the deployment, all those things we'll try to see. Okay. So how AWS code pipeline works? So initially define the pipeline, that is specify the pipeline structures including stage and the action a pipeline typically includes. So initially we need to mention source, retrieve the latest code. So from where I need to retrieve my code, you need to provide the repo thing. Okay, next build, compile the package and application using the services like code build. So from where we need to run our application, so either in my lambda or in my code build or like things, or EC2, where you are exactly running your application, and test. So execute unit and integration or system test. So we can also have the testing things. Once after successful of all these source or these stages, we can directly deploy your application to S3 buckets or the Elastic Container Storage, code deploy, or Elastic Beanstalk. These are all some serverless things. Okay, and next, configure the triggers. Setups the triggers to detect changes in the source repository and automatically start the pipeline. So anyway, we have provided our repo link, right? So when there is a changes got committed, automatically the triggers got happened and pipeline got execution. So once after the other, so orchestration of the workflow, executing each stages sequentially or in parallel. So as it required, so one after the other. Probably without building, we cannot able to test our application, right? So it's a sequential, so one after the other, like that. So monitoring and debugging things are can be done while looking into the thing. Okay, and here is the example, like source stage, build, test, retrieve code from the AWS code commit or git where you have linked, and use the code build to compile the application and run the test. So test stage, so deploy the test environment and run integration test. And approval stage, it's completely optional, you can have it or you can ignore it how you want, and later we just going to deploy. So we'll come back to this later, so let us go and try to look into the things. So in previous video, so we have deployed using the build as well as the static web application. So let me go here and we'll try to integrate something. Okay, so we just go and edit it here. Okay, okay, so fine, let me commit the changes. Okay, and where is the build? See here, so I need to provide the build manually, so unless until it won't happen. So let us go and hit. Before that, we just made a changes, right? Let me refresh it and show you people. So here we cannot able to see any hello world like thing what we have done. So let us just go and hit the button start. So now the build is started. Okay, so the build phases got done, and now it is copying whatever the things or the changes we saw into the S3 bucket. So now the things are successful, and we'll try to go and access whether we can able to see here. So we can make out the hello. So here I just pay an attention to build the things, right? So I don't want to go all the time and hit build and looking into whether changes are there or not. So just I wanted to make it automation. Okay, so from there only you can able to navigate to the code pipeline, or you can just provide here the code pipeline. Okay, so as of now I do not have anything, so let us go and create. So based on keeping the pre-built templates, that is you have already one pipeline is running well and good, so you wanted the same configuration. So on that case we can go and choose here, or else we can build from the custom. We just go here and we'll try to provide demo web itself. Let's keep the name simple. So execution mode, so how you wanted to execute, so how oftenly. So surprise it, the more recent execution can overtake an older one. This is the default. Like if you wanted to override the recent one, you can have it, or executions are processed one by one in order that they are required. Like what they are trying to convey here is means, so assume that X developer has committed the code a few seconds back, and Y committed the code a very minimal few seconds back. So the recent one is Y and before recent one is X, right? So the X execution was going, so immediately the new commit was happened. So it will going to overtake the older one and it will going to run that when we choose this one. So when we are going with queued one, so one after the other, so once it will going to wait till the X gets completed its process, only after that the Y will going to have. So when we hit the parallel one, we do executions don't wait for others, run to complete before starting or finalizing or the finishing. So it won't wait for another build to be completed, so automatically it will go and run things. Okay, so once we provided the name, so automatically the role is going to create. So to do this role, or what are the permission required to set up the pipeline, so automatically the things will going to have it. Okay, so if you want to add, you can add the variables. If not, you can just move on. So source provider, so from where you are going with, so we'll be going with GitHub, right? So we need to provide the repository. So web demo, yes. Okay, and unspecified error occurred, check your internet connection and then click to see the issues like this and done. Okay, so choose the repository in your account. So I could not able to make out, and auth will go and okay, so we'll select the auth. Okay, so now they will go and link our things. Okay, we need to connect to our repository here or the GitHub account. Okay, I provide action, and here we need to choose the repository. Fine, so the code demo is my repository and the branch is main. So here I will be linking the repo, so from the GitHub auth. Okay, no things. So where you wanted to build or where you want to run your application, so you can provide the command here also, or you can provide the just other build products. So we already created the build in our code build, or if you wanted to add Jenkins or anything you want. Okay, so from code build, so select the project name, so name of your code build, that is see here, demo web is my project. So that is what I just choose here. So if you, what kind of build you want, so we just saw right during the execution of the build code build, the same thing. So if you want single build or batch build, where you want, and from where you want it to run, and where do you want it to store your things. So source artifact, so by default it will go and store here, or if you have anything you can just mention here also. We'll hit the next, and deploy provider, so where do you want to deploy your application. So here I will be going with S3 because I will be storing the things in my S3 bucket, right? So that's the reason I will be choosing the S3 bucket. Fine, so even if you don't provide the deploy things, it's quite optional things. So since we have written already in this only, that is the code build specification, so where I wanted to store that. So even if you don't provide, it's well and good. Okay, so if you provide S3 bucket, so additional things will going to create bucket. Okay, so input nothing, so here we need to select the bucket where do you want, and S3 object key. Fine, so enter the object key, you can include file path without the delimiter. See here, it is asking for the object. Okay, So here I won't be doing anything like S3 object keys. So example like the zip thing how we wanted to store. So here I will be providing extract file before deploy. So whatever the compressed file is there, so you're just going to extract the file into like this. Okay, it will going to extract the file, so before deploying into S3 bucket. Okay, so if we go with providing the S3 object key like sample app.zip like things, you can have it like provide the so web.zip like things we can have it, or if we don't want to keep our all software or the package things in my zip, so we can just extract the file. Okay, so we can also enable the automatic retry on stage failure. So in case during the execution of a build, if it got failed, we can have it. So we just provide the next and we'll try to review all the things. Okay, so initially we just set up the pipeline, so parallel execution artifacts, that is to my S3 bucket, and the role is this, and variable I did not create anything, and the source from where it should be fetched. Okay, these are the provide, and this is my the name of my GitHub account or the username, and the branch we just provided from where the build should be run. So instead of going with Jenkins, so we'll be choosing the code build like. Okay, and the deployment stage, so where do you want to deploy? So this is how we can just go and create the pipeline. Okay, so now just keep looking into the things. So visually we can able to monitor the all the faces in one tab, that is from source. So it will going to fetch the things here, so whenever there is a things are happen. Okay, so once after that it will going to build the code and it will deploy in the S3 bucket. So from S3 bucket we can able to access here. Okay, so it's taking quite time. We'll go here and we'll change something and we'll let us see whether we can able to run that or not. Okay, so this is the sample page. Okay, we'll try to add this again. Look here, so automatically I did not do, just I refreshed the things, so automatically in progress window got updated. Okay, so we'll go here and we'll try to see. I think so they have updated something. Okay, so still okay, so we'll go here and we'll try to refresh. See here, the pipeline deploy static web. So I did not do anything, just I refreshed the things. Okay, so for your exam things we'll try to go and commit once again. Okay. So here we'll try the image into the 50%. Okay. Look here, so it's quite large now. Okay, so so we'll try to refresh it whether now the last execution started in weekends. Okay, look here, so automatically I just changed and committed my code, so automatically I did not start or I did not build anything, so automatically it took place. Okay, so we can hit the build phase like this, or can just check it from here also, the build, or you can go here for the pipeline and all. Okay, so or else we can, okay, so just I edited the few things, that is instead of parallel I just made it into queued one. Okay, so in queued how it is going to see. The transition we can see in this window itself. So okay, we'll again go and we'll try to make this 100 and we'll commit the changes. Okay, look here, so the pipeline execution ID, so automatically it changed from in progress. Okay, so once after completing this stage, that is the source extracting thing, so it will go and push the things into build one. So once after build it will go into deploy. So now the pipeline got executed successfully. Now the build in progress. So once after deployment we can just go here and we can refresh, so automatically we can able to see that image. Fine. So you might wonder that how it is going to happen, so before the build is doing its work. So you might have observed here, so in build project we have already specified the things here. Okay, so if we comment this one, so unless the build is happen you cannot go and make out the things. Okay, you can just we can try it that also. Okay, and in CSS we'll try to add header main. Okay, we'll replace it with the red color. Okay, so now in progress is in happen. Now the pipeline got executed, now the build is in progress. Okay, so since we have not deployed anything here, so still the build, we can just hit the view button to see the logs, so what are the errors if we have encoded like that. Okay, so now the deploy has happened. Okay, look here, so automatically the color got changed. So this is how also you can make it. So we'll go and look into the buckets. So here the pipeline is also created, the bucket, so we'll try to rectify what as there. So even I just show you people the code deploy, how it is going to work. Though we may not have anything, so in pipeline only we have provided the destin, so where we should deploy the things and all. Okay, here we have a different configuration things, so where you wanted to deploy the things, and we can go with canary also, that is we can bifurcate the percentage how we want and all those things. Okay, so this is all about something the managed as well as developer tools. We just come across initial starting with code commit, that is it's something like our GitHub repository. Thereafter we just wrote the build specification for building your application, so subject to your environment, so whether you are going with Python or Java, it is not restricted to any of the things, so we can have it. So we need to provide the build specification, that's the more important one. Okay, so from build specification, so you wanted to do automation thing, so you don't want to intervene in between during the execution process, so only pay your attention only when there is a logs are arises, or else the thing should go as smoother as possible. For that purpose we going to develop the pipeline. So we just saw, right, so how we can create the pipeline and how we can link the pipeline, so what are all the possible ways we can make out the pipeline, and how we can link different services and all those things. And we do also saw the few things like inside by providing the build specification also, before it reaches the development phase, the things was deployed. So we just in this section only, in build section only, we can able to make out the changes. So what I did, I just modified the commented the things, okay, and I waited till my deployment get happens, right. So this is all about the developer tools. Still we are pending with code deploy, so soon we will be doing this. Stay tuned for this upcoming video, and we'll try to go through with some similar tools. Okay, so obviously the Jenkins, GitHub Actions, so the quite similar things, only we have very few things is Bamboo token and Spinkers are the additional one compared to other video. Fine, this is the these are the few similar tools which are used in parallel with or in favor of AWS code pipeline. So thank you all for watching this. Thank you.